Hi, sweet ones. Good evening. How are y'all doing? I'm doing good. I was sent a message and asked if I would do a video on how to heal a trapped soul. Now, I cannot say that this has worked or will work for all of you. However, I can say this is what worked for me, and I am aware that it has worked for others. Hi, sweetheart. How you doing, love? For myself, how I healed myself was when somebody or something outside of you triggers an emotion. Hi, Michelle. How you doing, Alexandra? I freaking love you too, sweetheart. Thank you. When you get triggered, now whether it is from somebody or else that's triggering you, or maybe you're watching something or you're reading something and you get triggered, it's really helpful to understand that the second that emotion, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whether it's worry, hi Lillian, how you doing, beautiful, whether it's hurt, whatever it may be, the second that feeling arises or presents itself, stop right there. Don't attach to it. Don't go further with it. And what I mean by that is the second it arises, that emotion, let's talk about anger. As soon as you feel anger, instead of going further and say it's somebody else, or say it's your spouse or your lover, and they've triggered it, instead of bickering back and forth or putting blame or judging it, if you just be present with it, if you stop right there and stop asking why, if you stop, why is this happening, or this is you, as long as you become present in the feeling, and you stop yourself from judging it, and you go within and be present with it. Now, that's easier said than done. And I'm well aware of that. It's very easy when somebody triggers us to get defensive, to get reactive. And if you can breathe before you get to that point, good afternoon. I was going to say morning. Good morning. Good afternoon, Tammy. How you doing, beautiful? I love you too, sweetheart. If you go into that feeling, if you go into that anger or that hurt, whatever it may be, and you ask yourself, okay, where does this come from? It's never about the other person. They're just triggering something that already exists within you. And so when you can become present with it and you feel into it, take yourself back. Find what triggered it. So say it's your lover, and they've triggered this anger or this hurt or this pain in you. And when you can be present with it and not judge it, and ask yourself, okay, really what did it trigger? Did it trigger an insecurity? Did it trigger distrust? Did it trigger, yes, it triggered the emotion. But really, what's the wound? You have to identify the wound through the emotion. And when you can identify the wound, so say your lover cheated on you or your spouse, whatever it may be. Say they cheated. Okay, that hurt you. That created feelings of betrayal. That created feelings of hurt. That created feelings of anger. It created feelings of unworthiness. And when you can identify the wound versus the emotion, then you can take yourself even deeper, if you will, into it. So if you have been triggered, say your spouse cheated on you and now you're dealing with all these emotions, it's really helpful to understand with any wound there's a mourning and a grieving period. It's no different. It's a death. It's no different than if a loved one died a physical death. There's a grieving stage. There's a mourning stage. And the first one is denial. Then comes anger. And on and on and on. When you can identify the wound, then you can dig deeper and go back throughout the course of your life, if you will, and feel into every single time you have felt that same hurt, that same wound, if you will. When you can trace it all the way back to the very first time you ever felt that. Now, for some, it could be when they're a teenager. For others, it could be, when they're a young child. Some, it started right after they were born, but they cannot necessarily, hi Lizette, how you doing, beautiful? And some, it goes way, way back where they don't remember. Like, I can remember back to when I was about 2.5 years old when the sexual abuse started for me. Now, I can't go back further than that. I don't remember further back than that. Now, sexual abuse for myself has been something that has been prevalent all through my growing up years. And all the way through my adult life, it has affected me. Up until the rape. When the rape happened, I was able to heal that. But in order to heal the whole issue around that, I had to take myself in baby steps, if you will, from the rape back to the abuse throughout my teenage years, back even further down into, hi Jody, how you doing, beautiful? Back into when I was 8 and 9, and then back even further deeper down until, like I said, I can only remember back till I was 2.5 when the sexual abuse started. When you can trace it back and be present with the emotions but not attached to them, and what I mean by attaching to them is, say you're feeling unworthy because of it. Once you sit there and you attach to it, all of a sudden now, I'm unworthy. Oh God, I'm not worthy of this. Oh, and now you're projecting it out onto your family members and your friends and everybody else. And so when you identify with that, acknowledge it and become aware of it, you don't attach those emotions to it. You just become present. And really what you need to do when you can get back down to the core issues. Lillian, sweetheart, I do too. I'm just using an example of this one example. Thank you, Lizette. Please don't feel sorry. I'm grateful for every experience I went through. I signed up for this traumatic mission. I'm aware of that. And I'm grateful for everything. I have no regrets, guys. None. But again, go back to identifying what it is. It is only when you can really get to the core, and that's why we say it's like peeling the layers of an onion back. With every layer of that onion you peel back, sweethearts, you have all the ripple effects, if you will, within that layer that you have to heal. As you go back, as you dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the wound until you get to the core issue. And when you get through one layer, then comes the next layer. And then all those ripple effects. Remember, cause and effect. For every reaction, there's an action, and for every action, there's a reaction. So just because you heal that core issue of that first layer, you still have to heal all those little tiny ripple effects from that major core issue. Once you do that layer, then you go down. I won't be grateful, or in my case, Martika, sweetheart. Gratitude is all there is. If you cannot be grateful for the experience, you cannot heal from it, sweetheart. You have to learn to love everything that has happened. And I will tell you this, There is not, whether it's female or masculine, in this incarnation, everyone in one way or another has experienced, at least of the light workers and the way showers, have experienced some kind of abuse. Most of the women, absolutely, Kent is right. You have to let the anger go. Because the anger is going to keep you trapped in that feeling of unworthiness and undeserving and unlovable. And as long as you, almost every one of the divine feminine has suffered some type of sexual abuse. The divine masculine has suffered it in many of the same ways and many of the opposite ways. This is something that has affected everybody. Everybody. There is no one that's singled out. And I'm not talking just sexual abuse, but we're talking about how to find the core issue and how to heal your soul from being trapped in that. And it is only when you're able to heal the individual layers and keep digging deeper and deeper until you get to the very first time you ever experienced it. And that is hard to do. It's your journey within is not for the weak of heart, because you have to become present with those emotions. You have to become present with the feelings. It's liken it to this. For myself, it was like Big Linda had to comfort and nurture little Linda. The deeper I dug within myself, the deeper the pain, if you will, the trauma. And it's that little child within us, when you get to the core issue, that when you heal that, the core issue will dissolve. It won't present itself to you again, if you will. Until you heal all those layers and you go all the way back to the very core issue, it will continue. And that's why so many of you during this journey and these process with these energies, but I've already healed this. Why is it coming back to me? Those are like the ripple effects. Those are like the little things that are still there. Marquita says, I wonder why it have to be us. It killing my faith because of that. Martika, beautiful, let me rephrase that for you. You say, I wonder why we have to. We chose to. We chose to experience everything that we have experienced to heal that paradigm, that timeline, those energies. We chose to incarnate and do that because through healing it within ourselves, we heal the collective, we heal the planet. We heal those consciousness. We neutralize those energies. It's really helpful to understand that when you heal something within yourself, you heal it within an 18-mile radius around you. And what I mean by that is when you heal it within yourself, you have now put those healing energies, those neutralized and harmonizing energies out. And anybody within an 18-mile radius around you, it will come up for them to release it in love. Now, the higher in frequency you go, that can extend out. There are many that can heal it within a 100-mile radius of them now. But again, you have to heal the very core issue. When we say there's nothing outside of you, everything that you experience, you see, you taste, you touch, anything outside of you is projected from inside of you. So if you have somebody on social media or your neighbor or whomever comes over and triggers something in you, They're just playing a role to show you the wound that still exists if an emotion comes up. Now, when you can observe where you have healed it. So let's go back to the example I used in the beginning, a lover cheating on you or a spouse, partner, whatever, cheating on you. When you can dig that deeper, you can, and you observe it without attaching judgment or an emotion to it, you can observe in your lifetime this energetic pattern. You will see that maybe in every single one of your relationships you've had the same issue, just presented a different way, through a different face. Every time you don't learn the lesson or you don't heal it, it will come back and present itself through another face, another being, until you can see the reflection, until you can see what it's showing you. Once you heal one layer, and you can observe throughout the course of your life, observing that, you can see where the pattern really started from. And you can take yourself deeper into that when you see where it started from. And you can heal the core issue. You will discover this whenever you heal any kind of wound within yourself. It will not present itself again. The only reason it will present itself again is because there's still cellular memory. There's still remnants of it. And most of the time, that's those little ripple effects that haven't been dealt with, have been skipped over, whatever may be the case. Every wound that each of you have experienced in your lifetime, many lifetimes, comes down to three things: unworthiness, distrust, and abandonment. Now, I bring up the example of cheating on your partners because that has been such a prevalent thing with humanity. First, it's helpful to understand that any time cheating of any kind is presented, never is it as the surface presents itself to be. And that goes for anything. Just because it is in the physical world, your lover, your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be, is cheating on you, that is just an energy. That is not the issue. And so when you can detach the emotions and observe it, and you can trace it back, all cheating comes from because you were cheated out of an emotional wound when you were a little child. Now, whether that's because your parents partied all the time and had friends around and shoved you and told you to go to your room, go play, whatever it may be. That could be because maybe you were in a single family home and the parent worked all the time and never had time for you. It could be that you were in a family situation where there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of control, a lot of dominance, and a lot of abuse, mental, physical, emotional, whichever it may be, and the child got ignored. Now, we see this a lot in humanity, where children are parents partying all the time, doing drugs, whatever it may be, and their children get pawned off on the grandparents or on friends or at a babysitter or told to go in their room, or they're put in front of a TV to be quiet, whatever it may be. Those are prime examples of that child excuse me, being deprived of an emotional bond. Now, those emotional bonds, because they were deprived or cheated, if you will, remember everything is all energy, that will affect you throughout the course of your life. You will discover, if you observe and can go back and reflect, that that started a behavioral pattern for many. For a lot of the feminine, they sought or seek love outside of themselves. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they did not get that love, most often from a father figure. I love you too, Elizabeth. And so they seek in their relationships, in their partners, that daddy figure, that daddy love, that masculine affection. And the same can be applied. Absolutely, Kent. They are learned. Absolutely. And they're learned. And that's where you have to see where they're learned at, where that learning started, where that behavior pattern started. For myself, again, it started at 2.5 years old. You know, for myself, I was shuffled around between my aunt and uncle and my grandparents and yada, yada, yada. And so I didn't have that bond with either my mom or my father. And when you can observe those behavior patterns, where they started, that's where you heal it. You can heal the layers, but until you get to the very core issue of where it started and really comfort and assure your inner child and love your inner child. Because really, it's not the adult that's screaming out. It's the wounds aren't in the adult, if you will. They are in the adult. I didn't say that quite right. But they begin within the inner child. And it's the inner child that has to be healed. You know, for my case, it was little Linda that had to be healed. And when you can heal the inner child, when the adult can heal the inner child, heal those core wounds, you will discover the adult you no longer has to experience it. Grandparents were mine. I love you. There's so much reflection. It's amazing, and this is why we say nothing is outside of you. If you look at any of the comments on this video, or any video for that matter, you will discover all of us have had such similar experiences. And if you want that ultimate relationship, which the only thing humanity wants, and I feel it. Everyone can agree with me on this. Everybody desires to be loved. Everyone desires peace and happiness. That's the core thing that humanity desires. To be loved and to have a very peaceful, happy life. And the only way to have that is to truly go within and heal the core wounds of the inner child. Heal the abandonment issues. Heal the distrust issues. Heal the unworthiness. As long as you feel unworthy from any soul trauma, from any life experience, you will not reach that space of love, of peace and happiness, because you're not at peace here. And so how do you heal soul trauma? You get off of social media, you shut the TV off, you get out in nature, and you sit in silence, and you actually hear your inner child. You listen to your inner child and what it is telling you. What it is showing you. And what she, he, it is showing you is what you are experiencing in this outside world. It is never anybody else. It is just your inner child having that other being present it to you. So you can see it outside of yourself, that which you cannot see within. Your soul stays trapped until you choose to heal it. And again, it's not for the weak of heart. It's not for the faint of heart. Because you have to learn to be present with those emotions and with those feelings. You have to take yourself back into that space. So if sexual abuse or something like that, say, started like with me at 2.5 years old, I had to go within myself and take myself back to being 2.5 years old. I had to take myself back into that space of being scared, of not being loved, of fearing for myself, not... Ooh, I got goosebumps. You have to take yourself into that space every single time. And you have to feel that fear. You have to feel that hurt. You have to feel that anger. You have to feel that betrayal. You have to feel that unworthiness. But by the same token, why you are feeling it, sweethearts, you cannot judge it. You cannot attach new emotions to it. You cannot let the adult attach emotions to that wound of the past. Otherwise, you're recreating it to continue. And when you can be present with it and not judge it, and not emotionally attached to it, so you've taken yourself back into that space, and you're feeling very unworthy, very unloved, very dirty, very scared, if you will. When you can take yourself into that space and feel it, and as soon as you allow yourself to feel it, start reassuring your inner child. Yes, I know you're scared, Linda. I couldn't prevent it before. I couldn't protect you before, but I can now. I'm here for you now. You never have to worry again. When you can love that little girl, that little man inside of you, that little boy, when you can, and it's not a one-time thing, sweetheart, it is a continuous journey. It's a continuous healing until all those little ripple effects are healed. And all those reactions, and you will discover as you grew up, if you will, every time you were triggered, or now that you're an adult and you had a relationship where they cheated on you or lied to you or whatever it may be, and you feel betrayal or anything else, again, it can all be traced back down to your inner child when you were little. Or the higher you raise in frequency, the more ancient memories that will come up. It is only then that you can heal it. And that is why it is a recurring theme, if you will, that is constantly coming up with every level of frequency you rise to. With every level of frequency you evolve to, there's 7 layers within it. It's like you're starting over at the bottom and working your way up. You get through the 7 layers, then you raise yourself up to another frequency, and then you're right back down. You're starting over again. And every time you raise yourself to a higher frequency and you start back over on that rung again, if you will, of the ladders, you will discover that it's not as intense each time. Every bit you heal, it is released. But again, there's cause and effect. There's that ripple effect, that domino effect. So if you have, say, you've been married 3 times and your spouse has cheated on you 2 of the times and you cheated on your spouse 1 at the time, remember, it's a 2-way street. If you observe it, you may have healed from 1 relationship, but you may have healed from all the relationships, but then you still got things that are being triggered. Well, it's being triggered because, say when that happens, you take, for example, 1 relationship, like my last husband cheated on me with 3 of my best friends. And so now, not only do you have the trauma of the issue between you and your spouse, now you have the ripple effects. Because now you have the emotional reactions to the best friends. And then you have the cause and effect because they're all butthurt, you're butthurt, and they go tell their friends, and then their friends get involved in it, yada yada. So now you got a ripple effect and a domino effect way out there. And you have to, once you heal the issue, now you have to heal all that too. Because that triggered even more wounds. And it added salt to all of those wounds. So it's a ripple effect. It's never just a simple thing as one thing. That core issue is the main core issue, but you have to heal the cause and effect of that core issue and how it affected you in every aspect of your life. So how do you get the soul from being trapped? You love your inner child back to wholeness. You love you back to you. Thank you, Carol. We are amazing. I'm not outside of you, sweetheart. When you can heal that inner child, when you can be present with that inner child and with, good morning, Barat, when you can be present with it and you can comfort it, and it's a constant thing of that comfort. How many times in a relationship, and many of you can relate to what I'm going to say. How many times in a relationship have you started to feel insecure? And you needed that reassurance, say from your husband, your boyfriend, whatever. You just needed that hug. You're just having an off moment, whatever it may be. And, you know, maybe you get in a petty argument, or maybe it's a big argument. You know, and you all calm down or whatever, and you go to bed that night, or you go to bed mad and you wake up the next day and you look at them and you say, are we okay? Because you need that reassurance that you're still loved. And that's what your inner child needs constantly. It's not that your lover or anybody outside of you needs to tell you they love you, that they accept you, that you're worthy of them. All those doubts and stuff throughout the relationship, marriage, whatever, it's your inner child that needs that comfort. It's the little girl or the little boy within that needs that reassurance. And when you can become present with your inner child, you will come to a space where it will be healed. It will be comforted. It will trust you, the adult. And that's really what you need to do. You need your inner child to be able to trust that you will protect it. That you are strong enough now, present enough now, courageous enough now to take it in your arms and hold it and love it back to life. if you will. Only you can offer you the protection, the comfort, the nurturing, and the love to heal your inner child. You may have the greatest family in the world, the greatest spouse in the world, but your family and your spouse cannot heal your wounds. They can support you. They can be there for you. They can love you through it and hold space. But they cannot heal your inner child. They cannot give you the comfort, give you the protection, give you the love and the nurturing, because they were not there with you at that point, at that age. Barat says, when we pray, why sometimes we feel we are pretending. Well, Barat, I'm really not sure how to answer that for you, sweetheart, because if you feel you are pretending, then I really encourage you to go within and ask yourself where you don't trust yourself that you need to pretend. I don't really know how to answer that other than that. When you pray, you're not praying to a God outside of yourself. You're praying to your higher self. You're praying to your spirit. You're praying to be shown something. Asking ye shall receive. Now, it's really helpful to understand when you pray, when you ask for anything, it's already delivered the second you ask. Now, whether it takes you 1 minute, 1 week, 1 year, 10 lifetimes to recognize that you have already received it, well, that's on you. But you are given an answer, you are given clarity, you are given anything that you ask and ye shall receive. God has given it to you the second you have asked for it. But it's up to you to see it. And most often than not, if you're not seeing what you have asked for, it's because you have attached an expectation of how it should come to you. Mm-hmm. And as long as there is an expectation, spirit don't work in expectations, sweethearts. As long as you have attached an, hi Rachel, how you doing, beautiful? Hi Linda, how you doing? Big hugs and blessings, guys. As long as you attach an expectation to spirit on anything that you ask, then you are preventing yourself from receiving it. Spirit don't work with expectations. That's why it's necessary to surrender. To surrender the why, to surrender the how, and just surrender. And have that absolute faith. Faith is the truth of the trust you behold. If you do not have trust in yourself, you do not have trust in spirit. If you do not have trust in spirit, you do not have trust in yourself. The only way to learn to trust yourself is to heal your issues, to heal the wounds. And that is probably the most challenging or difficult, seemingly challenging, seemingly difficult things to do on this journey. Is to accept the responsibility, to accept the ownership, to accept that I just want, wait a second, Barat says, I just want to know how to surrender. Well, Barat, it is different for each of you on how you choose to surrender. There are many that surrender a tiny little bit at a time. For myself, and I understand that most are not able to do what I did. I'm fully aware of that. For myself, the only way I could heal myself was to fully surrender. Had I not been able to fully surrender and say, you take control because I can't do this. I am too weak. I am too broken. I can't do it. And unless you take over. And for me, that's what I had to do. I literally had to fully surrender. Otherwise, I never would have healed. I would have killed myself. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm not ashamed to say that in any way, shape, or form. Because I was broken. I was beyond broken. And it took me fully surrendering in order to actually see myself. Had I not been able to do that, so to say to you, Barat, I just want to know how to surrender. Again, surrendering is not an easy task. Surrendering to the unknown is probably the greatest challenge each of you face. Surrendering to the vulnerability of your heart is not something that you've been taught to do. You have been taught to guard your heart. You have been taught not to follow your heart. You have been taught that you cannot trust your heart. And therefore, you have I lost my train of thought when I was reading Alexandria's post. Forgive me. Most of us can surrender in little steps. You know, they have to prove to our minds that it's okay to trust. And it's a journey of baby steps, if you will. For those who can fully surrender and come to a space where they can fully surrender, they are able to fully detach and observe, go into an observation mode. For myself, I see myself in everything and anything. I don't see ugliness or demons or anything like that in any of you. The first thing I see is energy. I have to adjust myself to see your form. Everything is codes and numbers for me. Once I can see the form, once I allow myself to see the form, if you will, I don't see the ugliness. The first thing I see is your divinity, your holiness, your sovereignty, if you will. I can see your spirit and I can see your soul. I can see the trauma in it. I can see where it's cloudy. Was I able to do that at the very beginning of my journey? Absolutely, I was not. Not at all. To heal soul trauma, it takes an awful lot of dedication. It takes an awful lot of discipline. And it takes an awful lot of faith and trust in yourself. And at first you don't have that. And you're out there seeking and asking questions of others. And you run into these situations and circumstances. Well, if you don't understand, you're not meant to understand. And then you run into situations where you start questioning yourself and you're hearing your spirit, you're letting it sink in, but you're in that space of insecurity. Is this real? Am I really hearing this or not? And you go back and forth. And you come to a space where when you surrender Carol, I'm really sorry to hear that. Know your daughter's with you. In every moment, sweethearts. But when you come to that space, you're able to surrender more fully then. It's only when you can come to that space after healing so much of it. I mean, as you go through the layers, before you even get to the core issues, you start trusting your spirit. You start trusting what you're showing. And every little bit more you heal, and you hear your spirit, and you follow its guidance, and you surrender a little bit more to the trusting of your spirit. So, Bharat, it's a matter of learning to trust the guidance you receive. It's a matter of learning to allow yourself to follow in here versus here. Your mind will constantly try to attach to the experience. Now, when I speak of the ego mind, I'm not talking about the brain. I'm talking about the mind. The heart works through the brain. The ego works through the mind. And you're going to have these thoughts constantly popping in. You're going to have these voices in your head telling you you can't trust that. You're going to come up against that. And that's where you have to learn to master your mind. Quiet those thoughts. So you can hear that inner child within. So you can be able to communicate. And that's the necessity of quieting the mind and going into the stillness of the heart. So you can actually hear and see and feel what your inner child is telling you. And it is only then that you are able to comfort it and to heal it and to assure it that you're not going to allow anybody to hurt it again, that you are going to protect it. When you can totally get that inner child comforted into trusting you, the adult, is going to protect it, not abandon it, in everything else, you will discover that you're able to surrender easier. Does that answer your question, Bharat? So to heal any kind of soul trauma, sweet ones, you have to become present with it. You can't push away the fear. You can't push away the dirty feelings if you were sexually abused or something like that. You can't push away and ignore the unworthiness. And you will discover that the more you heal all those ripple effects, all those layers, and you do get to the core issue, you're going to find that your outside world and your perception of the outside world will change. When you can heal those wounds within you of sexual abuse, then all this sexual abuse outside of you is also going to heal. When you heal a core issue, it will fall away. It will not present itself to you again at all, because you have neutralized and harmonized those energies and that energy pattern back to the light. Paula asks, so I am my own loving mother and father that never loved me, right? Absolutely. If you did not receive love from your parents, then you have to be the parent to that inner child. You have to give that inner child, you have to go back into that space. Go back into that timeline. and become present with it and be the love and give the love and the nurturing that you didn't receive from your mother and father. You have to be the protection that you didn't have from those who were supposed to care for you. And that's the only way you can heal it, is to become that which you didn't have. I hope that answered your question. Nobody outside of you can heal you, sweet ones. You change the world by changing you. If you're seeing something and experiencing something in the outside world that you don't like, then that's a space within you, within your inner child, that needs you to love it unconditionally. If you find yourself judging an experience, judging another, lashing out to your partners or your children, when you abuse your children, or you see another abuse their children, or whatever you define as abuse, because many people define it in different ways. And you are the man in the mirror, Alexandria. You're the man, the child, and the woman. Again, it's your perception, and your perception is based on the energy frequency you hold within, and that energy frequency that you hold within is directly related to the unhealed issues of the inner child. When you heal anything within you in yourself, sweethearts, then you heal it fully. And you stop it from repeating. Bharat says, every time I pray, I ask to make my mind pure, my thoughts pure, my heart pure. I've come to you, make me pure. An inner voice I hear, don't pretend. Again, Bharat, you have to quiet the mind. If you go into meditation and you can't quiet the mind, you can't hear the inner child. You can't hear your soul. You can't hear your heart. You're not able to hear your spirit. If you ask, sweet ones, it's really helpful to understand when you ask for something, when you ask for peace, you will be presented an experience of chaos in order to see if you can be that which you're asking for. If you ask for harmony and joy, you are going to be presented with an experience to see if you can be harmony and joy. If you ask for patience, you can bet your sweetheart that you are going to be given an opportunity to see if you can be the very patience that you're asking for. And if you are presented with these and you cannot be the peace or the patience or the harmony that you have asked for, and all of us have asked for, a very peaceful, happy life. Now think back and observe. Reflect back and observe. How many times have you prayed for peace or patience or happiness? And then, I don't know, within a day, couple days, a week, you have been given an opportunity that has shown up. Maybe it's chaotic, maybe it's turbulent, whatever it is. And you have become impatient. You have not been that peace. You have become reactive rather than peaceful. Those are the lessons that initiations, tests, whatever you want to call it, label it. Those are how Spirit tests you, initiates you to see if you truly can be and are ready to have that which you have asked for. Every time you ask, you are speaking to your higher self. You are speaking to your spirit, saying, and if you ask for peace, you're saying, okay, universe, okay, God, okay, Mother, Father, Creator, Self, Mighty I Am, Presence, whatever label you want to give it. I'm ready for the next initiation. And I can tell you this. If you say you're ready for peace in your life, and you ask for it, and you are given an experience to where you can be peace, and you end up reacting to it and not being that peace, it's going to come back to you in another lesson next time you ask 7 or 10 times more intense. And it will keep repeating itself until you learn the lesson. Until you have reached that level of mastery. So if you want your heart pure, you want your thoughts pure, then you have to allow the other thoughts to be pushed away so you can hear the purity of your thoughts. You have to push that false programming, those behavioral thoughts, those thoughts of doubt and distrust away so you can hear. You're always going to have that little voice in your, or better yet, I'll put it like this, the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other. How many times throughout the course of your life that you have had an intuition or whatever it may be, and you have this angel here telling you, now you better not do that. And this one here saying, it's all right, nobody's going to know. We can do this, we can sneak out of the house, we can be back at this time. This one here, the little devil on the shoulder, will convince you and come up with every way you can pull it off. And this one here is even quieter in the background telling you, it's not a wise choice. But this one here is louder until you make this one louder. And I'm not sure how else to explain it other than that. My advice is to go within. My advice is always to go within. To not rely on me or anybody outside of you. But to really practice mastering your mind and quieting those mind thoughts and really set into your heart. That's how you heal soul trauma, sweethearts. Is to put yourself back into it. Just not attached to it. And love it back to love through love. That's right, Rachel. Whichever one you listen to more will be louder. So love you back to love, sweethearts. I hope that helped. Paula, I hope that answered your questions. Bharat, I hope that answered yours. And on that note, I need to go outside. Watch the sunset. Have a beautiful evening, sweethearts. I love you. I'm holding space for you. Big, big, big hugs and blessings. Have a great night. I love you too, beautiful.